What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to another episode of This Week in Baseball, presented by Diamond Digest, Season 2, Episode 16. I'm your host, Jordan Lazowski, and joining me today, a full crew, Sean Huff, Kristian Lloyd, JRoy, Jonathan Roy. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Pretty good, Laz.
We're good. I'm doing pretty good.
All good things. Good to hear from everybody. Got another action-packed show for everyone. Usual standings updates around the league in 60 seconds. Heading into the 7th inning stretch. And unfortunately, with two Phillies writers, we're going to have to talk about the Phillies a little bit. You do what you got to do. But
good timing.
Yeah, fantastic timing. Can't get any better than this. But let's jump into it. We'll start with the standings update. This is done before Sunday Night Baseball on Sunday, so there might be some small change to the standings, probably nothing too crazy. But if the season ended today, the Tampa Bay Rays would lead the Boston Red Sox by 4 games in the AL East. Chicago White Sox, 10 games up on the Cleveland Guardians. AL West, the Houston Astros lead the division out there. Your 2 wild card teams, the aforementioned Boston Red Sox, and just barely the Oakland Athletics. In the National League, first real change in quite some time with these standings updates on a week-to-week basis. The Phillies are in first place in the NL East. The Milwaukee Brewers have just a 5-game lead now in the NL Central. The NL West still belongs to, and here is, Diego, your shout-out to the Giants. The 71-win San Francisco Giants, the first team to 70 wins. They are still in first place in the NL West. The National League wildcard teams are the Los Angeles Dodgers. Nothing changed there. The San Diego Padres. Nothing's changed there. We'll talk about the Phillies in a little bit, so I don't want you two to spoil too much, but I'd feel bad if I didn't at least give you your, I guess I told you so moment of here come the Phillies. So JRoy, Sean, I'll give you a little bit of time before we jump into around the league to celebrate your first place Phillies.
Yeah, okay. So I'll start. We'll talk about the Phillies a little bit later, so I'll save a little bit for that. But I just wanted to share this stat really quick. Today, Zach Wheeler became the first Philly to retire 22 consecutive batters in a start since May 29, 2010. That was Roy Halladay's perfect game. Today, the Phillies retired Roy Halladay's number 34. A really emotional day for the Phillies, probably for the whole ball club. And, as a Phillies fan, just to, for Wheeler to come out and dominate the Mets like that, get the sweep, on the same day that Halladay's number got retired, that's just, a really cool moment.
Yeah, I'll get in later to what I think is going to happen with the Phillies and the Mets and the Braves. But I was also going to talk about Halladay's day. I tried to find my Halladay pin that I got when he went into the Hall of Fame, but I can't find it. It's in a hat somewhere. But yeah, watching them today was probably the best it's felt to watch them since 2011. They just looked actually good for once. It's different now.
And I'm sure you'll explain why once we get into that in a little bit. But
yeah.
Kristian, as for you, 4th place Angels still. Nothing new there. But I'm sure at some point you get this team healthy. It's a little bit different. But is what it is. Let's jump into around the league in 60 seconds, though. Both Sean and JRoy have already started a little bit with the first place Phillies. If you're new to this, we give a recap of the week, what each of our panelists here thought was the most exciting parts of the week that maybe we don't cover in 7th inning stretch. So we will let Sean go first.
So I want to talk about some of the guys in new places for a little bit. Anthony Rizzo has had, I think, about 40,000 WRC plus since he went to the Yankees. Javi Baez is hurt, but he had been okay. Kyle Gibson's been really good, surprisingly. I wasn't counting on him much. Scherzer, of course, dominant. Kimbrel, dominant, except for the 170 XBA home run, which lost me about $30. Jorge Soler's been surprisingly good. It looked like the trade deadline at the time looked like, oh, this is a big deal. We're going to remember this one. And the players are really backing it up, especially now that Trey Turner's healthy. He's maybe the best shortstop active right now with Tatis gone. This looked like it was something special, and so far it is.
I will say one thing I noticed with Javi Baez and the move. I saw some SNY, I believe it was, for the Mets, put out an article about, Javi Baez chases a lot, but can he change or something like that? It's like, have you not watched him?
The quote tweet of, did they scout him, was the best one.
So, yeah, that was funny in terms of like teams or guys changing teams and stuff like that. And, new fan base is starting to get acclimated to guys that they're not used to.
Gallo's the best one there.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun example. I know he had a big home run against Seattle a couple days ago, but that'll be a fun one for them to get used to. But JRoy, what you got?
Yeah, so I just want to say about Gallo, he got himself his first short porch home run. I thought that's kind of ironic, the guy hit it 550 feet, put one over the fence in right field. I wanted to mention Mike Trout turning 30. I don't know if Kristian might have mentioned that, but I think this season we haven't really talked about Mike Trout a ton because he hasn't played a lot. But this guy is the best player of the last decade, and I think it's kind of crazy just seeing him turn 30. It feels like just the other day it was 2012, and he was making that MVP push against Cabrera, and we were all like, "Who is this guy? Like, who is this dude?" And he's right at 78 F4 for his career. He's going to sleepwalk into the Hall of Fame. I think, every day forward now he's going to be on kind of the wrong side of 30, but I still expect him to be elite for a few more years. It's just kind of an interesting thing that he's finally 30 years old. Bryce has been awesome. I'll say a really quick thing about him. He just crossed 40 F4 pretty recently, which I think is a pretty big mark for him. Is a guy that big mark. He'll go in the Hall of Fame one day, hopefully, barring some really big injury one day or something. So that's a pretty big milestone for a guy that some people think has underachieved throughout his career. And I just think it goes to show that like he was so young, being so good, and so he's really racked up a lot of wins and stuff. It's been really interesting seeing certain people in different places. Seeing Scherzer as a Dodger is just so weird. Seeing Trey Turner as a Dodger is so weird. Seeing Rizzo and Baez and Bryant like not being Cubs is so weird. But I think we'll get used to it quickly. And all the trade deadline madness that made the game makes the game really exciting. So I'm looking forward to all that in the second half.
Yeah. The funny thing is when you think about like Trout turning 30, it wasn't the first thing I thought of, but I know like I play fantasy baseball. I love doing it. Like at what point do people, and I feel like it's already started happening when you see like people doing mock fantasy things and stuff. Like at what point is it not a given that you take Mike Trout first? Like maybe if you're doing it, it's like maybe if you start doing dynasty leagues and stuff like. At what point are people like, it's a consensus almost that you don't take Mike Trout first, and you're starting to see that shift. And then he hits 30 now. It's like, all right, that day's probably coming sooner than later, but which is again wild to think about because he's still Mike Trout. Kristian, what you got?
On Mike Trout, I think like 2 years ago, Acuna and stuff, they started passing him up just with the stolen bases that he doesn't provide that they do for fantasy now. But for around the league, just the Angels as a whole, we've been calling up all of our prospects, and it's awesome to see. Detmers got called up. He got shelled, unfortunately, against Oakland and the Dodgers. It's a tough two teams to face to start off his career. But our entire bullpen's been completely changed with just young pitching. Andrew Wentz and Zeb Selman, who we got from the Giants, he's now up and dominating in the big leagues. We've just had a lot of young talent come up. Joe Adell's finally here. Brandon Marsh is here. And our young pitching is here. Like, it's really here. Patrick Sandoval has been one of the best pitchers in baseball this season. And his whiff stuff is the best in baseball.
Yeah. The sign of the future coming for the Angels.
Finally.
It's a nice change. I was just going to say it's probably a nice change of pace as an Angels fan, just being able to see some of the young, fresh talent coming in. Always exciting when young prospects come up. So, let me think. Anything else we might have missed? I don't really think so. It was I say boring, but it was a fairly straightforward week of baseball. Nothing too crazy happening. Not too many headlines that we won't really cover in seventh inning stretch. But
the Boston collapse. So that as a whole.
Someone just mentioned that in a group chat of mine. They went from like a plus 100 run differential to something like only plus 30, plus 34, or something like that. So,
but we knew they weren't that good.
We knew
that's where things start getting interesting. Exactly. It's like you knew the pitching wasn't that good, and how long does that hold?
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of thought the same thing about the Giants, though. I was like, yeah, like Red Sox and the Giants, they're playing out of their minds, but like I don't know, they're both like not that good. But the Giants are still 30 games above 500, so you never know. But yeah, I agree.
Coming for them too.
It is, but their pitching was a lot better.
I've been saying that all season though, and it hasn't happened.
And they got a trade for Chris Bryant, that's a huge addition.
Right.
Boston got Kyle Schwarber. We like Kyle Schwarber; he's awesome, but he had another setback with his hamstring, and he's going to be out for another 2 weeks longer.
But they're going to sell.
They are getting back.
That's the big thing.
Top
it's
three
like
pitcher in the league. They're getting back.
Yeah, you went from. I mean, Boston's. What they did early on was built on hitting. What San Francisco's done, and why I feel like it's a little different. San Francisco's done it a lot on pitching.
Yeah.
And now you add a big bat on top of that, it almost feels like that should feel a little bit more sustainable. But not to be fair, nothing's really that sustainable when you're playing in the same division as the Padres and the Dodgers. You're going to have to fight for it. So it's like you're fighting for it there. Remains a very curious, like little case study of sorts for why the Giants remain in first place still. But let's jump into seventh inning stretch. We'll start talking about what we had just previously mentioned. Chris Sale will make his return to the Red Sox on August 14th after undergoing Tommy John surgery. Meanwhile, Ramon Laureano of the A's was suspended 80 games this week for PED use. Figures as much. Round of applause from Kristian. So, Red Sox, Rays, Yankees, Astros, and A's. Only 4 of these teams can get into the playoffs, and the Yankees made the biggest deadline splashes of all of those teams. So who's the odd team out here? And as I share my screen for seventh inning stretch, we will start with the only American League person in the panel, Kristian.
I'd have to say the Red Sox are the odd man out. Their bullpen and their starting pitching is the weakest of all of them. The offense is stronger, but they're just not as good. They're not as solid of a team. I don't believe in Oakland. I never will believe in Oakland.
Shocker.
They're annoyingly good. It's annoyingly good. Their starting pitching has been really, really good. Montes and Cole Irvin, I don't believe in their success for this season. Their pen is really strong, though. Their offense has been really lackluster all season. The Rays, they're going to win that division. It's not close either. The Yankees actually can kind of make it close, but I think the Rays are their pitching is far and away keeping them above everyone else. Yeah, so the Red Sox missing out for sure.
That would be quite the fall. JRoy, your thoughts?
So I agree with Kristian that I'm not going to ever believe in the Oakland Athletics, and that's why and so that's why I'm going to say that I think they're the odd team out. Kristian makes a good point about how the Red Sox starting pitching is a little bit lackluster, but they're supposed to be getting Chris Sale back, which makes me feel a little bit more optimistic about that. I think the Rays will win that division for sure. I think that they're the most solid team, and they've got a little bit of a cushion right now. They're 6 ahead of the 6.5 ahead of the Yankees, which I think is their biggest competition there. And so, I think the Rays will win the division. I think that the Yankees and the Red Sox will get those 2 wild card spots. The Yankees, I was so ready to write them off and say that, they're just going to wait for next season. But, man, they went out and made some moves. So, I think they're going to have a really good second half. I think that they'll make up a lot of ground, and I think they'll be the first wild card team. I think the Red Sox will be second, and I think the A's will be the first team out.
Sean?
Yeah, if we go by the Fangraphs playoff odds, they have it as a toss-up between the Yankees and the A's. I also think it's a toss-up between the Red Sox and the A's, and I think it's the A's in this case. The Astros are just so demonstrably better than the A's. Their rotation for the playoffs is going to be so deep that they might have Greinke in their bullpen. And he was their game one starter last year, and I believe their opening day starter this year. And they upgraded their bullpen. The A's can't possibly catch them. Then the Rays are going to win that division, even without Glasnow. It's the Rays. It's what they do. They pitch, they bring up guys you've never heard of, and they put up a 2 ERA and a 2.5 FIP, and then they trade them for 2 more guys who do the same thing the next year. So the Rays are there. The Yankees have won, 8 of their last 10, 9 of their last 11, something like that. Rizzo, Gallo, huge additions. They'll maybe get Severino back at some point. Cole has been great again. I know we were all making fun of him with Spider Tack. He's been really good his last few starts. It's got to be the A's. The Red Sox are iffy, but Sale's coming back. Houck has been very good. He has really filthy stuff. Eovaldi's been a top 15 pitcher this year, quietly. The back end of their bullpen is really strong with Whitlock and Barnes. I don't think they can fall quite that far either. And the A's, I just don't trust them. They just brought in Chris Davis again. And why? Is he going to play the outfield? He can't physically throw. They can't make the playoffs.
Yeah, you're starting. It's odd because, Boston's lost 8 of its last 10 games. Houston's lost 6 of their last 8. You're starting to see the good teams struggle right now. And I don't know. I kind of agree. I'm on the A's train for this one. I think when you look at Houston's not going to be losing 6 of 8 for long, and Boston's bats are what they are, and Chris Sale's coming back to that team. No one had, except the Dodgers, no one had a midseason acquisition anywhere near what Chris Sale can be. I think it's hard to write them out. But at the same time, it's a tough. If I had to pick between the Red Sox and A's, I'm probably sticking with the Red Sox. I think it is those 2 teams, though. I don't see anyone else falling out of it.
I think something that helps Oakland quite a bit is that they're not in a stronger division.
That's a really good point.
Now.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
Because the Blue Jays are right there,
too.
We're not really talking about them, but the Blue Jays could easily – I think the Blue Jays are going to finish higher than the Red Sox, and they could easily take the wild card. Oh, yeah. Barrios was a great addition for them, and their offense is – we know what their offense is.
Right.
I don't know if Athletics are stronger than the Red Sox, but I think their division is weaker, and their game strength going forward is going to be a little weaker too.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point about the schedule and this the divisions.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. That is a good point, and you're right. The Blue Jays are kind of right there. I think that the only reason I'm not really mentioning them is I've kind of expected them to make a push the whole season. I've just been kind of waiting for it to happen, and it hasn't really happened. I think that I think they could make a push, but it might not necessarily. And I know it's kind of fallacious to be like, the Red Sox are in their down streak right now and they'll bounce back from it. But I've got to think that they'll bounce back from it. I think that this is kind of like the worst stretch of the season they're going to have. And if they can just get through this, if they can just power through these next 5 to 10 games and turn it around a little bit, get their mojo back a little bit, I think they can. I think they'll be in a decent spot,
especially with the reinforcements coming.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. One last thing with Toronto is they have the best run differential in their division, I think, in the entire American League.
Yeah,
Houston's above. Houston is above, but they have a 122 run differential. That is better than Tampa, better than anyone in that division by a good bit. They're a strong team. I I would not count the Blue Jays out in the slightest.
Yeah, that's a good
They
point.
are. The only worry I have about the Blue Jays is Ryu hasn't been that good.
It's hard, and the bigger issue is it's just hard. That's 4 teams, like four
really
teams in that
good
division,
teams.
10 games above 5. That's hard to get out of. Like no fault of theirs either. It's just when you got guys that are that good in your division, it's rough. But it makes for some fun conversation heading down the line, which is good. So
fun baseball going down the line. Too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Really fun time.
But let's talk about the aforementioned Max Scherzer as we jump into inning number 2. In his Dodgers debut, he went 7 innings through 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 10 Ks. I wasn't sure where I was going there. My brain just malfunctioned. With the Giants being the first team to 70 wins this season, will the Dodgers be able to catch them in the NL West? We'll start with JRoy.
I am going to say that yes, they will catch them in the NL West. I'm past the point of being like, the Giants are going to fall off at some point. They're, we're too deep into the season for me to be like, oh, well, what they're doing is a fluke. They're like 30 games over 500. Like, they're a great team, and they've done it mostly on the back of their pitching and a couple of their star players. Posey's been so good. Gosman had a monster first half. Desclafani's been pretty good. Longoria's been playing okay. That kind of stuff. But I just think that the moves that the Dodgers made at the deadline are going to prove a little bit too much. We saw Scherzer have a really good outing. I think he's just going to pump out really good outings from now until the end of the season. Trey, that's a great addition. I like to dog on Trey, but he's a good player. He's a great player. He's performing as like one of the best shortstops in the league right now. I think, before the season, we were talking about the Dodgers as they have the best lineup that we've ever seen, maybe. And they added Scherzer and Trey Turner to that. I think they have more. I think they're going to catch up to them. It's like 4.5 games right now. Or I forget what the distance between the Dodgers and Giants is right now.
4.5, you're right.
4.5. Okay, yeah. I think if we're going to see some regression to the mean for one of these teams, I think it'll be the Giants before it will be the Dodgers. And for that reason, I will slightly say that they'll win that division.
Trey Turner leaves the Nationals, and all of a sudden, JRoy feels like he can say nice things about him. Look at that.
I would have done it 2 weeks ago, I'm telling you.
Kristian, your thoughts? I think you're on mute.
Yeah. The Dodgers are winning that division. No offense to the Giants, no offense to Diego. I love them. Buster Posey is the MVP in my eyes right now, unless Fernando Tatis comes back. The Dodgers are just so much better than everyone as a team. Like they're how can you beat them? Like Cody Bellinger is hitting 8th and should probably be on the bench. He's a 2019 MVP. He should be on the bench right now. They're too good of a team. Way too good. It's the Dodgers all the way.
It's a really good point. Sean?
Of course the Dodgers are going to catch them. I'm guessing everyone else saw the tweet from Jeremy about there being more combined all-stars in the starting lineups of one of the Dodgers-Astros games than in the starting lineups of the All-Star game.
Jeez.
That's basically what it is. If I did an actual exercise at one point before the season, if you combined the rosters of the Dodgers and the Padres, and then you combined the rosters of the rest of the NL, which is better, and it was the Dodgers and the Padres. And that's still, you could do that with just the Dodgers themselves, and it would still be really close. They have maybe the Cy Young and Buehler. He's the betting odds favorite right now. Scherzer, Kershaw, 2 Hall of Famers. Arias got the last out of the World Series last year. He'd be a 1 or a 2 on most teams. He's their swingman in the playoffs. They have a deep bullpen. Trinan's been great. Like notably, Jansen, if you give him a few off days, is back to being peak Jansen, which is just ludicrously unfair. And yeah, Bellinger hits 8th. Chris Taylor hits 7th a lot of the time. Will Smith is still like 40% better than league average, I think. which for a catcher, that's just unfair. I don't know how you beat the Dodgers. I don't know how the Dodgers don't go out and just be 4 games better than the Giants for the rest of the season, because they're going to win today and narrow that gap to 4.
So
I think the biggest thing here is it's just, whether or not they win the division, that's not a team you want to face in a short
any
series.
possible.
Like, you're in trouble. Like, winning the division might be one thing. Winning a playoff series against them is going to be brutal. Like, you earned it if you were able to do it. But
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think a big question mark for the Dodgers. Like, I think they'll catch them, but I think the margin that they end up taking that lead is just going to depend on like Mookie's hip. I think if he's able to come back from that, like the Dodgers are saying that it's like a really bad injury he's been playing through, for a long time, but like if he can come back and like I feel like before that, like this whole season, Mookie's kind of been playing at pretty much near his floor. I don't like he hasn't. He hasn't really exceeded expectations, but he's been about what Mookie Betts will give you at his absolute floor. So I think that if he can like have a really good a month or so when he comes back, if he's healthy, I mean, that lineup just becomes even more unfair, and then I think that would really secure them as having the best record in that division.
Yeah.
To add to that, even if Mookie Betts does go out, Cody Bellinger's back. I mean, when he faces Anaheim, he always fixes his swing, but he just hit another home run right now. As we were speaking about it. He's back. That's Cody Bellinger's back.
Yeah.
So you fixed Cody Bellinger in the process. Perfect.
He's a rhythm player.
We're really good at doing that for Slum Busters.
We'll see where that ends up lying there. But inning 3, it was announced this week that Anthony Rendon will undergo hip surgery, effectively ending his 2021 season. The articles are already being written about, and I've seen them. I'm not making this up, I promise. Are already being written about how signing Rendon to his 7-year, $245 million deal was a mistake. Kristian, no doubt I will start with you here. Was it? And if you are the Angels, what do you do to get this team back and competing in 2022?
Was it a mistake? Absolutely not. We needed a third baseman. We haven't had a consistent third baseman since Sean Figgins in 2009. We've had a different opening day third baseman every year. I mean, David Freese had 2 years. We needed Anthony Rendon. We needed him at the price that we got him at too. He's awesome, and he will be awesome going forward next year. I think we're competitive. We're competitive this season. We haven't had Mike Trout, Jared Walsh, Upton, Rendon. We haven't had anyone, and we're still at 500, above 500 for most of the season. Our young pitching is here. It's proven itself in my eyes that it can go forward. They just need to sign someone. They really just need to sign bullpen pieces next year and one arm. And not a 1-year deal either. The last multi-year deal we've given to a free agent pitcher that wasn't Shohei Ohtani's rookie contract was C.J. Wilson in 2012.
Mm-hmm. That's an absurd number.
That's the last time we've given a multi-year contract to a pitcher. It's unforgivable in my eyes. But yeah, no, we're competitive. Rendon's injury sucks, but they're going to be good next year.
Sometimes getting healthy is the best thing you can possibly do for a team.
True.
Sean, your thoughts?
So losing Rendon really hurts. He probably wasn't the number 1 third baseman coming into this season. I had Ramirez ahead of him, but he was really close. He was top 3 at worst. And, there are a lot of good third basemen. But the contracts at the time, when the initial Fangraphs article came out on it and the Zips projections came out, it was considered a bit of an overpay. But hey, that's fine. You're a team with Mike Trout. You have to overpay because you have to get to the playoffs. Put a 500 team around Trout. Everyone has said that for, 10 years now. And they still haven't done it. But they can do it next year. Healthy Rendon is a 5-win player. Get Walsh full playing time. Don't put him behind Pujols for the first month of the season. That's an instant you get another win just by not playing Pujols at all. Fletcher is really good. Make Stassi the full-time catcher. Get Suzuki out of there. I don't know why he's still playing at all. He's a terrible pitch framer, and Stassi's an excellent pitch framer.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally concur.
Adele will get more playing time next year. Walsh is kind of promising. And put C-Rod in the rotation full-time, please. Or at least use him as a swingman, because he's looked filthy. Yeah. Especially once he went back down to the minors. He's been incredible. It'll also help that now we know again that Dylan Bundy's bad, which is painful because he looked really good last year and it was a lot of fun. But now that we know he's bad again, he doesn't have to take up a dozen starts at the beginning of the year. They can go sign someone. I don't know who exactly. I forget who's free this offseason. I know a lot of old guys, but they don't.
There's a Chicago left-hander that I really like there, huh, Les?
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
In my eyes, quite a bit.
I'll tell you what. With the Lynn extension, there's no way he's coming back. He's going somewhere.
Yeah, he is. And Gosman's free.
I haven't spoken about the Lynn extension, but my goodness, what a great deal that was for Chicago. To get him under the qualifying offer.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous deal. You guys got very, very good.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that, even though it means Rodon's going elsewhere.
Yeah. Yes. The other thing with the Angels is, can they get a real shortstop, please? Like, Jose Iglesias makes a lot of highlight plays, but he's actually a bad defender, and he's not a good hitter. Like, I know the shortstop class isn't going to be as good as it was supposed to be, and I really want Correa to go to the Marlins. I think that would be perfect. But still, he'd be a great fit there. Seager would be a good fit there. Baez, not as good of a fit, but still decent. Like, he's not as good of a player, but still he's better than Iglesias.
By each other.
Baez
and Madden.
I love having video on these because like you can watch the reactions to Kristian to everything that Sean's saying. JRoy, your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I think that the Rendon deal is so far what's happened this season is a classic example of like process versus results. And, I think that a lot of people who just kind of like looking at results are saying like, oh, this is a bad deal because, Rendon came to the Angels and now he's not hitting well. He's playing through injury. Oh, he might be an injury liability for the rest of this deal. But from a process standpoint, this was an awesome deal. Like, of course, the Angels needed a third baseman. And you're talking about a guy in Anthony Rendon who from 2017 to 2019 put up 6.7, 6.2, and 7 win seasons, like 3 straight. Like, I mean, he's a fantastic hitter and he's a plus defender. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's like a true talent, maybe 6.5 win player. Like, Rendon's awesome. He's gonna be awesome. If he can recover properly, if he can come back into next season, you're looking at a guy who's arguably the best third baseman in the league. I don't know if I'd go that far necessarily with it, but listen, Rendon is so good. I don't know how you can look at this objectively and be like, wow, that was a bad deal. 7,245, that's not crazy money. That's fine. You pay that for a player like Anthony Rendon. So yeah, I think this is basically not, people who aren't looking at what goes into this decision and just looking at the other side of it, like, oh, what has it netted you so far? And it hasn't netted you anything so far if you're the Angels, but in the future, I think it almost certainly will. And I just want to say, Sean, I never thought about Correa going to the Marlins, but that would be an awesome fit.
Correa and Jazz next to each other would be amazing.
That would be so sick. I don't know. I never thought about that.
Put Correa in those City Connect Miami uniforms. Oh.
That's not
maybe people will stop hating Correa then.
Yeah, but that's nice.
It's a nice thought.
Put him by Ohtani, we have a conversation about people hating him. But other than that,
sorry. Oh god. All right, the two of you have been patient. Let's get to the Phillies question. Fact or fiction, inning number 4. Fact or fiction, the following statement. With an 8-game winning streak and the current state of the Mets, congratulations to the NL East champion, Philadelphia Phillies. I don't know. It's like, do you want one blow to the head or 4 to the gut? Like, what is this right now? I guess we'll start with JRoy.
He's the much worse one.
I know. It's like, get it over with early.
You know, this NL East race is a complete crapshoot, pretty much. And for that reason, like, you have no reason necessarily not to pick the Phillies, you know? So, like, I'm gonna pick the Phillies. The Mets offense is abysmal. You know, the Braves have been pretty inconsistent all year. We haven't really seen one of these NL East teams put together a great run the way the Phillies are right now. Like Sean mentioned this earlier, but man, like, this is the first time in years where I've felt like the Phillies are actually kind of good. Like, you know, I think the last couple of seasons there's been flashes because the talent's there, but I've never felt like, oh man, like this is actually like a good unified baseball team. I feel that way right now. I think they're a good baseball team. They've won 8 straight. Wheeler just pitched the game of his life tonight. He was awesome. He did it on Doc Holliday Day. Bryce Harper is playing like the MVP. He's been outstanding. You know, Reese is going to come back soon. I think things are just kind of clicking for them, honestly. I think that things can continue to get better even. You know, I think they can continue to play at a high level. I mean, there's just so much to be happy about right now if you're a Phillies fan. And so I think they can ride this momentum. They're peaking at pretty much just about the right time. And so I'm going to say that they will win the NL East.
Sean.
So I was all prepared to come in here and say, no, I'm going to be the downer. The Mets are still a really good team. The Phillies bullpen still has question marks. They're not going to win the division. And then I watched the game today.
Mm-hmm.
And do any of you remember in 2015 when the Nationals were a lot better than the Mets, but every time they played each other, the Mets would line up their rotation so that the Nationals got Syndergaard, DeGrom, and Harvey? That's what the Phillies are going to do to the Mets and the Braves for the rest of the season. There is no one to match up with Wheeler unless DeGrom comes back. No one can even come remotely close. Neither of those teams even really has someone to match up with Nola. The closest you're getting there is Charlie Morton, who's been wildly inconsistent. I love the guy, but it hasn't been his best year. Ranger Suarez has been really good now. Zach Eflin is a solid 3. Ian Kennedy, who, fun fact, Ian Kennedy finished in the top 5 in Cy Young voting the same year as Roy Halladay and Cliff Lee did. Just throw that one in for you. Has been good. I still like Jose Alvarado a lot. He has, I think if I ever had to stand in the box against Jose Alvarado, the life would leave my body. I can't imagine having to hit against him. Harper is getting MVP chance. Real Muto is 1A or 1B as the best catcher in baseball. It's too close to call, and it has been for a long time. Hoskins can hit. Kutch can hit. Even the bench players have looked good. Torreyes has been good. Luke Williams has been okay. He had a good game today. Better game, at least. Knapp is a decent backup catcher. It's a deep roster. Didi Gregorius hasn't really hit yet. If he's going to hit, that adds another bat. Segura was, if the All-Star game was a week and a half later, would have been an All-Star. And, hey, how about this one? I know we're talking about Harper for MVP. How about Wheeler? Wheeler's definitely the Cy Young favorite right now, and he's been better than any hitter has been. Can he get some MVP consideration, please?
All right, Kristian. Are you going to make it 3 for 3? Or are you going to bring him back to earth?
Let's bring him back to earth. They have a Swiss cheese defense, firstly. I thought the Angels' defense was pathetic. I make fun of them every night. They break my heart every night. The Phillies make me think Andrelton Simmons is still out there for me. It's Alec Bohm cannot play. He cannot play. Real Muto is awesome. Everyone else is not, defensively speaking. Harper, we'll let him live.
Yeah. It's bad.
Their starting pitching is cool. Wheeler is great. He's elite. I wouldn't have him in my top 3 Cy Young, but he's 4th for sure. Aaron Nola. Come on, he's a 4.40 ERA this year. We're talking he's a number 2 right now. No one in the NL East is better. He's a 4.40 ERA. All right, like let's relax on him. Ian Kennedy
It
is
is a
awesome.
three-step.
The rest of the bullpen, are we gonna talk about them? I mean,
No,
what's that?
no, we're not.
That bullpen is bad. Like
No,
you have
we're
the
not.
Angels bullpen. Raisel Iglesias is awesome. Everyone else makes me want to die. That is the Phillies bullpen to an extreme. They have a really, really like good chance of making the playoffs solely because the Mets are being the Mets and the Braves are hurt. That's all. The Phillies are not that good of a team, and they're lucky. But I do not believe in them now. I don't believe in them for the division at all.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So, okay, Christian actually made some good points about the Phillies, but he's comparing them to the Angels for some reason and not the Mets and the Braves.
Yeah.
And so the Mets and the Braves have huge holes as well. Like I said before, the Mets are physically incapable of hitting the baseball. Like, like
Right
they just can't do it. They can't do it.
I know we're supposed to be smart here, but also, come on, the Mets have some pagan god rooting against them, right?
Yeah.
But the Braves, like you said, the Braves are hurt. Which is, I'll take it. Like what, whatever allows us to have a playoff push here. But I mean, the bullpen question marks are still there for sure. Absolutely. I thought it was funny, Sean, you said going against Alvarado would be the scariest thing ever. Yeah, because he would throw one down the middle at 100 and one behind your head the next day. So yeah, I think Alvarado would be a good choice for that, definitely. I think it's so easy to look at the Phillies defense and their bullpen and be like, yeah, this team isn't good, but the other teams have holes that are pretty much just as big, in my opinion. And okay, Nola's not going to continue just to be a 4.5 ERA pitcher for the rest of the season.
You can't say the Phillies defense is bad and then blame Nola for a 4.5 ERA, especially when all of his ERA estimates are a run lower.
That's
exactly. Go look at his.
If they were making errors, it wouldn't count towards his ERA. Maybe he was supposed to have a 5.40 ERA. That's all I know.
They have no range. They don't score them errors.
I know that problem.
This dude using ER. This dude using fielding percentage basically is what I heard just now.
Instead of just saying the Phillies are like 26th in LAA.
Yeah, this is an interesting conversation though. I don't know where I fall on the Phillies. Truthfully, I wrote them out a little while ago, and I'm still trying to catch back up and put them back in the race.
Yeah, exactly. That's the interesting thing about this race.
There's a caveat here. If DeGrom comes back, everything's out the window.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. But,
he's like,
the thing is that everyone's trying to be all analytical and smart and reasonable and logical about what they think is going to happen in this NL East. And the correct answer to this is no one knows. And we don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to pin down exactly how to logic yourself to an answer here because all three of these teams have big holes or they're hurt in some way or something's happening. So why
the Mets are immune to logic.
What?
The Mets are just immune to logic.
Exactly. No.
Yeah.
I mean, law Mets, that's the slogan, always.
We'll be asking the same question in a month from now and have the same exact answers. We have no idea yet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Here's what we should hope for. We should hope that the Marlins suddenly catch fire and just blow everyone away. Because they're the only good run differential.
It's nasty.
Yeah.
They can do it. If any team in that division could go on a run, it's the Marlins because of their starting pitching. Everything else is kind of a joke, but that starting pitching
bad. But their rotation is really formidable.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting division. There's a lot of interesting things to watch. I think, kind of like you mentioned, we're going to be having this conversation in September too. Nothing's going to change. But it's fun to think about. I'm glad I could give the two of you a little moment in the spotlight for your Phillies, but let's jump to inning 5. The Tigers announced a 2-year extension for Jonathan Scope, which could explain part of the reason why he wasn't traded at the deadline like I thought he was going to be. Do you like this move for Detroit? Does this mean the team thinks it's ready to compete soon? And do you agree with them? If so, we'll start with Kristian.
I thought this team was ready to compete this season. To be honest with you, going into the deadline, they should have traded for Joey Gallo or traded for Trevor Story and just extended them. The White Sox are awesome. Their pen is as good as the Royals was in 2015 now. Like, it's ridiculous. So they're probably not going to catch them, but that's a team that can compete right now. They hired AJ Hinch knowing they're ready to compete soon. I like the Jonathan Scope extension quite a bit. They're going to get one of those shortstops and they're going to compete next season. Yeah.
Sean?
They're going to compete. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I agree with Hinch. He's probably a top 2 manager in baseball. It's him and Cash, and that's everyone else way back. But they just have so many weak positions. They don't have a catcher. Scope is good, but the rest of the infield is shaky. I like Green and Torkelson are coming, but I don't know if they'll be here next year. I'm not a huge believer in Mize. I am a huge believer in Skubal, especially after he was throwing 97 a few days ago. But they really, if they were trying to jumpstart their window, they should have signed Realmuto last offseason. Like, that's a spot where they really could have gone. They have a young pitching staff. He's an excellent framer. And who's the alternative? Grayson Greiner? Am I even pronouncing that right?
Sounds right.
Opening day was Wilson Ramos, so that's where they are defensively speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. And the White Sox are very good. The Twins aren't going to be this bad next year. The Guardians are going to be 500-ish. I don't think they're not winning the division next year. And there are 4 good teams in the East. The Astros are still going to be really good. They're not making the playoffs next year. They'll compete. They'll be 500-ish. It'll be kind of the opening of their competitive window, but they're not quite ready to compete yet. That being said, I love the signing. I think Scope is a really good player. I think he's really underappreciated, and you can just re-up him again if you happen to arrive early or if you're there at the end of his deal. But no, I don't think they're competing next year.
JRoy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this signing moves the needle for them a ton. I don't think Scope's a bad player at all. I think he's pretty good. He might bust out a 3-win season every now and then here. He's like about 15 to 20% above average as a hitter. I'm not a huge believer in the Tigers right now. I kind of want to be, but I think that there are too many holes in their team so far. I think they've had a little bit of bright spots. I think that Mize and Skubal are both going to be great pitchers. I really believe in them a lot. But I mean, your best players are like Candelario and Baду. They're not competing for a playoff spot right now at all. I don't think that's going to happen this season or next season. Maybe the season after that, depending the way Torkelson comes up, what happens with him. I think that when he comes up to the majors and is actually settles in and starts actually contributing to the team, I think that's when we can kind of say that their competitive window opens a little bit. And but I don't know. I don't think the scope signing moves the needle a ton, but it does show that their front office is willing to spend, which is very important. If you're a Tigers fan, that's crucial. That matters a lot, which is good. I don't think Scope's like a world beater or anything, but as a fan, you want to know that your front office is committed to winning at least sometime soon. So in that sense, I do think it is a good signing.
It's a good point.
I would have them comparatively to the 2015 Astros, where their core was coming up. You saw the talent. We saw that they were there. They snuck into the playoffs. Probably shouldn't have been there, but we saw the talent. I think that's kind of where Detroit is right now. And money-wise, the only committed contract they have is to Miguel Cabrera. Everyone else is on a rookie deal. They have all the money in the world to spend, and Illiches love to spend when they start spending.
Yeah.
So if they start spending, it can get scary over there, but that's a big if still.
Yeah, that Astros team was different, though, because they signed a bunch of guys really cheap who had a ton of power and decent plate discipline. They signed Colby Rasmus and Luis Valbuena, and there's a bunch of guys who in Houston were going to hit 25 homers.
Yeah. I think I think you all kind of make good points. It's very much this team knows it's coming soon. It might not be now, but everything they've done since this offseason has said, hey, we're coming soon. It's not going to be much longer until it's the easiest division to just put a half decent team together and find yourself at least competing for it.
Yeah.
So
Also,
there's no reason not to, especially with the outlook. Like Kansas City's going to stay mediocre. Cleveland's going to stay mediocre. Twins will probably be mediocre for a year or two. It's like now is the
they have
time
a
to.
huge off season coming up.
Yeah.
depending on what they want to do with the direction.
They've got an important off season. It's like if you're Detroit, it's like there's not going to be too many opportunities better than right now in the near future. So let's just do it.
And they can go get Verlander again.
They can go get a healthy shortstop, and all of a sudden that team looks a lot different. So I'm curious to see what the Tigers are going to do this offseason.
Yeah, and obligatory Gregory Soto mention just so Scott doesn't yell at us.
Yeah, it's like Kristian said, you see the talent.
You see the talent. Akil Baddoo is probably the rookie of the year in my eyes right now.
Yeah, that's phenomenal season.
Yeah, he's been really good.
Only getting better. The plate discipline has been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeing those pieces coming together. It's coming quickly. I don't know how soon, but the division makes it a little bit easier for that.
Certainly.
Inning 6 last week, or this week maybe, one of the two. Fernando Tatis re-aggravated his left shoulder injury that he's been fighting through all season. This week, that's why I worded it that way. This week, we learned the Padres are seriously considering moving him to center field upon his return. Sean, does this move make any sense? Do you agree with it if it's actually done?
There are two perspectives here, and I'm going to answer from both of them. From the perspective of I want to see Tatis be a lot of fun. Oh, please do it. Please, I want to see Tatis run around that outfield. I want to see a Tatis Grisham tandem out there taking away every hit. Do you know how much fun it would be to watch Tatis in center field? This guy's so fast and so athletic. It would be incredible. But then there's the baseball perspective of it. And I don't think it does. He's just going to get hurt more playing out there, right? He's going to crash into a wall or he's going to dive. Mm-hmm. It's going to be like early career Bryce Harper when he would just run headfirst through things. And who's going to play short if they don't have Tatis there? Like, are you going to play Hassan Kim full time? He's good, but he's a utility guy. Cronenworth isn't going to play short full time. Adam Frazier's not going to play short full time. And who do you bench if you move Tatis to the outfield? Do you move Will Myers into the infield and bench Hosmer? Well, that would actually be kind of nice. But Cronenworth can play first anyway. Do you send Tommy Pham as a fourth outfielder? I know he's a terrible fielder, but he can still hit. Do you trade someone away and try to get another bullpen piece? They don't have a particularly deep bullpen. I don't know how you manage that team if you put Tatis in the outfield. You don't have a true shortstop other than Kim then, and Kim is your 11th best hitter. And Tatis isn't that bad. He's only minus 1 OAA this year.
That surprises me. Kristian?
I think from a fun perspective, as Sean was saying, he's fun as hell at shortstop. And that might be the funnest position right now is Tatis at short. I don't think putting him in center field would necessarily make him a more like attractive or fun start because what he's doing now is awesome fun. I don't think it helps prevent injuries much. I mean, it's his left shoulder, right? Mm-hmm. You're still doing the same motions. I guess you're not going for backhands as more, but I don't necessarily see that as a help. And I think they've outlined it, or Sean outlined it. Who do you want at shortstop? Cronenworth can play a good short, but I like him at second base. And yeah, I don't know if it really pushes the needle too much for them or it does too much for them. If it happens, like they tried it with Trey Turner when he was struggling at shortstop. They tried moving him to center field, and Mike Trout started at shortstop and became a center fielder. So you never know. I don't mind it. I think it'd be an interesting thing for the Padres, but it doesn't really do much for them.
JRoy?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised by the cynicism because I think this would be a really good move. I think that it's still a relatively small sample ever since Tatis has started his career, but I think most of the defensive metrics point us to the fact that Tatis isn't that good at shortstop, and I think that he's like -6 DRS this season. He was 0 last year, and he was -3 in 2019. So like that's -9 for his career. He's a net negative at shortstop in the long run. I think the only thing that is stopping him from being an absolute legend, like a legitimate all-time great, is going to be his defense at shortstop. If he can't fix that, assuming that he doesn't get rid of his demons at that position. Listen, he's fast, he's incredibly athletic. I think he could play a really good center field. I think the only real question is who would play short. I think Cronenworth is capable of doing that. I think he's more than capable of doing that. I don't think moving him from second over to short is a terrible idea. I don't think it's something that would be out of his range of capabilities. I do think that Cronenworth at second is such a great fit. He won the Rookie of the Year last year playing that position, but I don't know. I don't see it as a bad move. I don't know. I don't think Tatis is that great at short. I really don't. The guy makes a bunch of mistakes at the position. He as athletic and fast as he is, I just don't think the data shows us that he's that good at the position. He could be great at center field. You don't know. I think that I don't know. He's got the tools. If anyone's got the tools, it's Fernando Tatis. Like, him and Grisham in the outfield, man, they would cover some ground. They would cover some ground. I don't know. And like Sean said, it'd be a lot of fun. Would it necessarily be more fun than him at shortstop? Maybe not, but it'd be a completely different thing. I think this is an MVP caliber player. I think to be able to put him in center field, I think he can pull it off. I'm in favor of seeing it, and I don't even think it'd be a bad baseball move at all.
The one thing none of us mentioned somehow is Grisham is like a plus defender in center.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah. From there
that's a consideration for sure. Grisham is a fantastic outfielder. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that he's not. I just think that he would be awesome in right also, or he'd be awesome in left also.
He would. One thing is that
right. Let him use his arm.
True.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think that would be maybe even a better idea, actually. I completely agree.
I like Cronenworth's versatility. I like the fact that he can take Hosmer out of the lineup at any given day. So I don't like the idea of having to make him the starting shortstop per se, because like he is the guy you just move everywhere right now. And taking Hosmer's bat out of the lineup is a huge plus to the Padres. We all know it. Like he's horrible, has been horrible, and will continue to be horrible. And
it's an interesting question. I don't know. I kind of roll my eyes at it when you start. It's like, what are they trying to do? But he's not a world beater at shortstop defensively.
He's not at all.
He might be good. He might be average. He might be fine. I'm like, it's not something where it's like, I think it's outside the realm of like, no, this dude's a stud here. Like you can't move him type thing. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how it works out. But
honestly, I just get scared thinking that like we're gonna see a 20-year career from Tatis where he's just like a 150 weighted runs created plus hitter, and the only thing keeping him from being like a 120 win player is the fact that he sucks at short. Like I'm just scared it'll be like a Jeter type thing.
He's Jeter.
Where he could have been like. He could have been like a 100-win player, but he just couldn't play the position that he played at his whole life.
Yeah. It is funny you bring up Jeter, though. I mean, positional adjustment saved Jeter. He probably have the same war as Ryan Howard if we're going
and Jeter and Tatis are bad in opposite ways. Jeter just had he couldn't go more than a step. Tatis has all kinds of range. He just doesn't know how to throw.
Yeah, exactly.
His is a lot of smaller, like minimal mistakes that I think are very fixable. Like he just rushes himself because he's Fernando Tatis. He loves to be as flashy as possible. He loves to be as quick as possible. So he makes little smaller mistakes that I think as a shortstop will just buffer out as he gets older.
Yeah. I think we've seen improvement, though. It is an important piece, too. Like, I think these seasons are better this season's been better than what it's been in previous. But I don't know. It's an interesting question. I don't know what they're going to end up doing with it. But as we round out here, let's jump to the final question, inning 7. Peter Gammons wrote an article this week about the 10 most important pitchers in the second half. This is the order: DeGrom, Sale, Flaherty, Kershaw, Severino, Nick Anderson of the Rays, Syndergaard, Ian Anderson of the Braves, Yu Darvish, Tyler Beede of the Giants. That I rolled my eyes when that 10th one came across too. Whether or not, and that's why I wrote the question the right way I did, whether or not you agree with that list, my question is this: who are your top 3 most important hitters in the second half for the postseason stretch run? We will start with JRoy.
Okay, so I was gonna try to not cheat a little bit on like keeping it just at 3 players, but okay. So first off, I'm gonna say that I'll just get this one out of the way already. I think that in order for the Phillies to actually make a run at the NL East title, I think Bryce is gonna have to stay at this MVP level caliber of offense. I think that he's gonna need to make this MVP push if the Phillies want to be where they are. I think Reese has been really good this season. He's been 123 WRC plus this year. I think that when he comes back from his groin injury, if he can be really good in the last month of the season, I think he's a huge X factor for the Phillies because he's been pretty good. The guy walks a lot, but if he's like actually great the way we kind of used to think that he could be, I think that the Phillies are in a great spot. Second, I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one too, but I think that Gleyber Torres has been –
that's a good one.
Abysmal this season, has been so bad. And I got to be honest, I don't really think Gleyber's all that good of a baseball player, but he had a good season last year. So like if he has an 89 WRC plus so far, if he can turn it around, if he can actually be like just a shell of his the way he was last year, they can then the Yankees are in all of a sudden in such a much better position. I think a lot of Yankees fans and a lot of other fans too have kind of just like expected him to continue to be bad the rest of the season and have just kind of hoping that the Yankees can turn things around in spite of him. But man, like I'd have to go look at his splits a little bit more like monthly. But actually no, second half he's been a little bit better actually. He has 3 home runs in the second half and he had 3 the entire first half. So there might be a little bit of a change. 333 average in August so far. He might be turning a corner a little bit. He just has to be like 20% above average for the rest of the season. You could also throw DJ in there. DJ's been like pretty much exactly league average, whereas I actually do have faith in DJ. I think DJ actually is a good hitter. And so if he turns things around, I do think DJ's a good hitter. I don't care what y'all think.
No, I was laughing at the way you phrased that versus like comparing it to Gleyber.
No. I'm a Gleyber skeptic for sure, and I'm pretty high on DJ. He went to LSU, so I think that if DJ has a much better chance of turning it around, and if he does, if DJ and Gleyber both turn it around, man, the Yankees they can make a push at that division. Honestly. Third, I'm going to say Alex Bregman. That's
a good one.
Yeah. Bregman has been out since June 16th with his hamstring with his quad. He has not played a lot this season or really last season. It feels like every single plate appearance he's had this season and in the shortened season last year, he's been battling some kind of injury. This is a guy who in 2018 and 2019 back-to-back put up 17 wins. 17 wins. Man, if he comes back healthy, you're talking about a guy who can put up 150 runs created plus season in his sleep. If he comes back and starts hitting the way he actually can and he's healthy, man, it's over for the A's. It is over for the A's. The Astros will run away with that division.
Sean?
So I was planning to start with DJ, just because of the Yankees' odd insistence to keep leading him off. I don't get that. I enjoy watching Yankees fans on Twitter argue about it, though. But I'll go to one of my backups here and start with Matt Chapman, who, kind of opposite of the Bregman points, the A's are really fighting against the Astros here. The Astros are a lot better than them, and the A's have to be the A's and scrap against them. And Matt Chapman could be a huge part of that. We've seen him at his peak be an 8-WAR player. Well, R-WAR, which no one really likes.
Keep going. Keep the narrative. Better for intruders.
Yes, exactly.
I love your comments on this, Christian.
But he's been really bad this year. He's always been known for hitting the ball hard. He's had a good eye. He hasn't been an elite offensive player, but he's been above average. And when you couple that with his otherworldly defense, he's been, 6-win player annually. This year, he has a 91 WRC plus. He has a 295 xWOBA, and he has a 295 WOBA. Something's wrong here. I don't know exactly what it is. I know his exit velocity is down. Maybe an injury of some sort. Maybe he just made a swing change and it's been hurting him. Who knows? But the A's need him. He lengthens their lineup significantly. They need him to hit, especially when they're a lineup that's routinely running out Elvis Andrus. Then a second one. This is also kind of in opposite of the Harper one. Michael Conforto. Conforto coming into the year might have been the Mets' best hitter. He had put up around a 140 WRC plus 2 years in a row. And this year he's, I believe on the broadcast today, Mike Schmidt said he was batting 203. He did have his heroics this year. He had the walk-off hit by pitch. We're not going to talk about that. But coming into today, he had a 94 WRC plus. He is slugging 342. And part of it's a 244 BABIP. Part of it is that his xWOBA is 361, while his WOBA is 305. But still, he needs to hit. He needs to just get the ball in the air a little more. That has to be the problem. His ISO is way down. His BABIP is way down. That has to be the problem with him. He has to be putting too many balls on the ground. Even though his launch angle is up somewhat, he just isn't hitting like he's supposed to, and he was their best hitter. And then this one is kind of a different thing here. This isn't impacting the playoff chase at all because they have the division sewn up. But how about Christian Yelich? We haven't talked about him at all this year. And he was an MVP. He didn't deserve the MVP. It should have been DeGrom. But he was an MVP. Then the next year he deserved an MVP and didn't win it. And he did this off the strength of hitting a ton of homers in a really friendly home park. And since that point, he's been not very good. He's been above average, but he hasn't hit for much power. And that's what he was doing when he was great, was he was just hitting the ball, pulling the ball in the air, and hitting 40 homers. And he really hasn't hit for any power this year. Last I checked, Fangraphs isn't loading on my computer right now, but last I checked, he was slugging under 400. And if that's your best hitter, that's really a problem. Without him, the Brewers are left with Omar Narvaez as their best hitter. And the Brewers have a really, really scary pitching rotation. You don't really want to face Woodruff and Burns and Freddie Peralta and Josh Hader and Avatar The Last Airbender in the playoffs. But that's a lineup that I think I could strike out 12 times with a blitz ball unless Yelich turns it around.
Those are three good names. Christian, round us out here.
So I'm going to lead it off with Brandon Nimmo. He hasn't necessarily been struggling this season. He has a 130 WRC plus. But Nimmo is just a difference maker for the Mets. He has a 415 on base percentage this year. His ISO, however, has been down by 100. And he's been awesome despite the lack of power. If he comes back, that's the Mets offense back in full force. He'd be my first choice. Matt Chapman was going to be one of my guys. Yeah, the Athletics need him. Their offense has been stale without him. Matt Chapman's a really weird hitter. He has a really high line drive percentage, and it's unsustainable to have. So last year, line drive percentage went up, fly balls went down, ground balls went down. This year, the ground balls stayed the same, line drives went down, fly balls went up, but none of them are turning into outs because they've just been like pop outs, really. Infield flies have gone up a lot. For my third choice, I was going to choose an Angel, to be honest with you. Not for the postseason, but Joe Adele going forward. It's this second half. We've seen such improvement from him. He had 2 doubles today. He's seeing 2 to 3 more pitches per plate appearance than last season. That's a huge addition. He's whipping already 10% less, walking a lot. I mean, he has as many walks this season as he has last year. If Joe Adele shows what Joe Adele can be and like shows the power and everything with his defense coming up and not being like what it was last year, the Angels are completely different going into next season. So that's the hitter this second half I've just been most watching.
I don't know how to break this tie I've got here. I think I'm going to leave it as a tie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was watching on the broadcast today. I thought it was really interesting that Nimmo gets on base like a freak, but he has like a 360 slugging. It was just kind of crazy. I was actually thinking about putting both Chapman and I thought about Chapman and Yelich. I just don't know how you can look at what we've seen this season and last season and just say that Chapman's a good hitter. Like, I just don't know how you can come to that conclusion. I don't. I think that he's going to have to be if the A's really want to be serious, but I just don't think the guy has it in him. I don't think he can play baseball, to be quite honest. But Yelich I thought about also because I think that he deserved the 2018 MVP, and I think he certainly deserved the 2019 MVP also. The guy like Yelich was such a good hitter, and he was so good for those couple of seasons. I don't know. I want to believe that there's some little fix he can make to get things back on track because I don't think it's over for him. I think he can still be a superstar. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Cody Bellinger also probably should have been mentioned here.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only name I thought of other than that was Bellinger's. Like,
Bellinger was.
If Cody Bellinger's Cody Bellinger, anybody else not named the Dodgers is in trouble. Like,
yes,
the Dodgers are doing what they're doing without Bellinger. Like, that's absurd to think about.
The Dodgers are doing what they're doing with Albert Pujols on their team. Okay,
but those were all really good names. I think it makes for a fun second half to know, you've got stars that are struggling right now, and you've got guys that need to step up for their teams to be good. And it'll be curious to see.
I'll say real quick, lads, I think that, I don't know, Bellinger's in a weird spot for me. Maybe I'm too hard on him or something, but, like, you said that, like, if Bellinger's Bellinger, like, I'm not sure who the real Bellinger is. Like, I'm not certain if the real Cody Bellinger is the guy who won the Rookie of the Year and the guy who won the MVP a couple seasons ago, or if he's kind of just a super streaky, inconsistent guy who's not gonna, who's gonna play like he has this year. I honestly don't know. I think he's good enough in the outfield and like that, and his swing is good enough that his floor is pretty dang high.
His floor is a 3.5 win player.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But is he just a 3.5 win player, or is he like a 7.5 win player? I really don't know.
Yeah.
I think either way you
figured out how to break the tie.
Oh, you want to break the tie?
Yeah. Henniger to the White Sox.
All right. Sean wins.
No, what?
Anyway.
Okay.
With
Sean.
Bellinger and not knowing who he is, it's very fair though. In 2019, when he won that MVP, he hit 400 the first 2 months, and he was slightly above league average the rest of the way through of 2019. He was 110 last year WRC plus, and he's been horrible this year. So we haven't seen an MVP from Cody Bellinger in so long, since the beginning of 2019.
Yeah. If he's a 125, though, he's a 5-win player because he's such a good defender.
Yeah, he's such a great defender for sure.
He's an interesting that you bring up good points. I just looked at it now. I'm like, oh yeah, the MVP was clearly the standout season, and it's like, well, if that's the ceiling, that's great. That's probably not the floor though, as we've seen. But he's an interesting case. But I don't know. I'm going to be fair. I'll leave it as a tie, Sean. As much as I love pandering, however, it will get you everywhere with me.
Yes, I leave that one from Diego.
But this is a good.
It just killed Laz too much to give me that extra point.
Hey, I usually get a penalty for saying something bad about Giolito or something.
Yeah, JRoy, I'm sorry. I can't help it. But you know what? Since we're wrapping up here, we're going with what to watch for this week. I'll still let you start. How's that feel?
I'll take the consolation, I guess. So, what to watch for this week? We talked a bunch about the Phillies. They're coming off their hot streak or whatever. They play the Dodgers this week. That's going to be a ginormous test for them. Could go really poorly. It could go really well. I think this is going to be very revealing in determining how serious they are about making this NL East push. I think it's a super important series for them. Also, Nationals and Mets play each other. I think that if the Mets don't figure things quickly with their offense, they might bury themselves in too big of a hole. So, if they let the Nationals stick it to them for a few games, that might be a really bad sign for them. It could also be really good for them, though. So I think Nationals, Mets, and Phillies, Dodgers are two pretty cool series to watch for. Really big implications for the NL East playoff picture. So,
Kristian?
What to watch for is Max Stassi, frankly. There's no better catcher in baseball than Max Stassi. Quote me on that. He's an elite framer. He's an elite blocker, elite base thrower, elite hitter. There's no one better than what he does. It's watch Max Stassi. Watch him fix the Angels' entire pitching problems. Watch him be the Messiah. He's awesome. Just watch Max Stassi.
Kristian, I could pull up some receipts of you saying that JT is the best catcher in baseball. I could do that to you.
You probably could, because I wouldn't necessarily disagree until the Max Stassi emergence that I knew was going to happen.
I know that you said it because prior to this season, I was the only person who didn't have Realmuto #1 on their top 10 catcher list.
Who'd you have, Grandal?
I had Grandal.
No.
I won't be mad at
Skip
that.
pandering for the point, huh?
I was going to say, you're trying me.
This dude is shameless.
I'll be honest. I appreciate it
every year for the last 3 just because framing and walking are so much more sustainable than JT being athletic.
Sean, I'll be honest. I'm sure at some point down the line you'll get some extra points. You're on this enough to where you'll get them somewhere. But
hey, don't listen to him, Sean. He's been doing that for like a year.
Why don't you wrap us up though with what you're watching this week as we head out for this?
I'm watching Barrios versus Ohtani. I'm really excited for that one. It's
a good matchup. 2
really fun teams. I don't know which broadcast I'll watch. I'm not a huge fan of either broadcast team, but that's a really fun matchup. 2 guys with just really visceral stuff and some fun hitters in that matchup, including Ohtani himself and Vlad, who I went to Citi Field just to see him. That's going to be a fun game. And also, I want to see if Joey Votto keeps hitting home runs.
All he's got to do is hit pop-ups, like you saw it the other day.
In the way that the Reds fans would say it. I want to see if Joey Votto continues to bang.
Yeah. The Votto resurgence has been awesome.
He's been awesome. He has been fantastic. It's cool to see that everyone's kind of writing him out at this point in his career.
And he's just so likable. He's the hitting version of Greinke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. A lot of fun stuff to watch for this week. A lot of fun coming up. But that's going to do it for us in our recap of this week. We'll be back on next week, per usual. Until then, you can find us at the website, diamond-digest.com, the Twitter handle @diamond_digest, the Instagram handle, diamond.digest. Make sure to follow all of our writers here, Kristian, Sean, and JRoy. JRoy didn't put his Twitter handle, but make sure to find and follow him.
At Johnny3076.
I don't think I follow you.
Okay.
Great.
I don't think Diamond Digest follows Jonathan Roy. So
okay.
But that's going to do it for us this week. Make sure to follow us along with us everywhere. We'll have plenty of great articles coming out this week. For Kristian Lloyd, Sean Huff, and JRoy, Jonathan Roy, this is JRoy and Lazowski signing off. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you next week. See you soon.
Thanks, Dustin.